Welcome back to another episode of Let's Ride with Chris Harris Jr. on the Believe Network. I am Patrick Chiotti. I am, of course, joined by my co-host, Super Bowl 50 champion, former Denver Bronco cornerback, Chris Harris Jr. Chris, somber day,
Yes, sir.
that we have to record this show because I mean, there was a point where I thought, do we even record a show? Do we even do a show for this? Embarrassing performance. But before we get into that, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing good, man. I know, it feels like a dark cloud, in Denver right now, but it'll be some sunny days coming out real soon, hopefully.
Well, the
We
city
might
that
get
gets
Caleb Williams, man. You never know.
the
Might
city
get
that gets 300 days of sunshine a year is definitely experiencing that dark cloud as the Denver Broncos lost in an embarrassing fashion to the Miami Dolphins in week 3. 20-70. I've never seen a 70-point game in the NFL in my lifetime. It's the highest scoring game in the NFL since 1966. Chris, what were your initial thoughts, your initial takes after watching that game?
Well, I think when we did our picks, I said they would score like 30 something points.
You were
We were
close.
going to need a lot of points to score,
First
but
half.
I never expected 70. We just came out there, looked like we had no effort. We've been questioning the tackling since the preseason. We've seen bad tackling, guys taking bad angles, not making the right fits. Usually the backers play good, but we just didn't fit the ball right. The running backs were running free. I think they ran for 300. Did they run for 300 yards?
300 plus yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
350 yards of passing, 350 yards of rushing.
Yeah, that's unheard of. That's like Madden. Like people don't kids can't even do that on Madden. So we have to realize that was like a very extremely poor effort. And we got to be able to fix that next. At least play hard. At least tackle. Yeah. When you can tackling shows me that you got that dog in you.
Yeah.
Right. I always prided myself of being a great tackler. Right. Yeah. I know I could step on the field and be the best tackler on the field for the Broncos right now because these guys are missing wide open field tackles. Guys aren't swarming. So those are things that let you know if you have that dog in you. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the NFL edge because mostly everybody should be able to have the talent to be able to make a tackle.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody physically freak athletes.
Yeah. What I mean? So if you can't tackle, that just means it's something that in you that's not right. Right. Yeah. So, and as a team, we're having that. I'm seeing that as an issue, every week that hasn't been fixed. And I mean, like, how many missed tackles?
24.
Did you? That's an extremely high number in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would like to look at how many missed tackles I had over my career. Like
we'll get that.
Yeah, I would want to see that because 24 tackles, usually you come out the game probably like 10, 15 missed tackles, depending on who you're playing, but 24, that's an extremely high number. And I think that's an issue that we got to clean up on defense fast.
And that comes down to you made a fantastic point because really what it boils down to is effort. I mean, these guys spend all summer long. They've been doing this their whole career. This is their career. You're coached up on how to tackle. You're coached up on how to play defense. You spend all summer working on it. All the off season, you're working on your explosiveness, your hips, your tackling form. You get a new DC in, and maybe he has a different way of teaching tackling, and maybe that's just a difference between the last DC and this DC, but it really what it boils down to is effort. How bad do you want to make a play? How bad do you want to make that tackle? And that picture of Devon Achane is burned into my memory now, where there's just 8 Broncos players face down in the grass, not even near him, and he's just running free. That is going to be the picture that every Broncos fan sees in their mind. For the longest time, the picture was the ball flying over Peyton Manning's head in Super Bowl 48. That was the picture that haunted us forever. Now it's going to be that picture, because that single-handedly was the most embarrassing performance and the worst effort. It's not even about the final score. It's not even about the final score. The final score is a reflection of the effort. You allowed over 700 yards of offense. You allowed them to score 10 touchdowns in a single game. You can't do that on Madden unless you're playing in rookie mode. and that's what Mike McDaniels and Vic Fangio were doing. This was rookie mode for them. And it's scary because they're a good offense. They're a really good offense, and the rest of the league should be terrified. But this was just a bad performance by the Broncos defense all in all. Alex Singleton played like a shell of himself. He had 4 missed tackles. Drew Sanders was getting embarrassed left and right. And this is a guy who we had high hopes for, really high hopes for.
And he got a great opportunity to play.
Yeah. And just nothing. Like it was just bad. I understand you're out there for a long time. And we talked about this before the season. We knew that this game was going to be grueling because it's Miami. It's hot, it's humid, and that sun is just beating down on the visitor sideline in that stadium. It's not fun, but you still have to play football, and it's just rough. So all the embarrassment aside, a football game was still played. Some of the things that I noticed, Chris, when watching the game was just, again, a recurring theme of the Broncos defense not being able to generate pressure. Do you think that do you think that this boils down to a talent issue, or is this a coaching issue?
Yeah, I think we're putting too much blame on Coach Joseph, even though he's not doing, a stellar job. I think we're really lacking in talent, playmaking abilities, playmakers, superstars, guys that are blue chip guys around the league that you see on every defense. Usually every defense has at least 3. You gotta have at least 3 to be a top defense. We see Eagles, they loaded, top to bottom with blue chippers. The 49ers, top to bottom got solid guys. You got to have that, to be able to win. When we won the Super Bowl, we had blue chippers all over the field. So everywhere. Right now I'm not seeing the talent level to be able to be a top defense in the league as they were last year. Maybe because you lose a K'Wan Williams. Maybe he might be a bigger issue than what people thought, losing him. And not Justin being out. You need Justin there, especially versus number 1 offense ranked team right now. Mathis, he really hasn't played good at all right now. So and then looks like we don't have trust in the backups right now. So that can get, and then Surtain, he's going to play good, but he's not going to play at the level that he can play at, because it's hard to be motivated, when you don't have you don't have a lot of dogs around you, as a player. It can kind of wear you down. So hopefully he can it's going to be a good test to see if Surtain can mentally shake it off and really lock in and still have an all-pro season. But it's hard to do that when you have when you have the guys that are around you right now that are not really producing. So we definitely need the D-line to get going for sure.
Oh yeah, the defensive line needs to get going. The edge rushers need to get going. We've expected a lot from Randy Gregory. We've expected, obviously Baron Browning isn't in there, but Frank Clark isn't in there. But Nick Bonito, 2nd round guy, he's been stepping up a little bit. He was really one of the only players on Sunday to
get low pressure.
There was 2 total pressures in this game. 2.
Yeah.
That's it. 1 from Gregory, 1 from Bonito, no sacks, 1 quarterback hit, 1 hurry. That's tough for a team that is so reliant on, that secondary playing well and being able to shut guys down. You have, like you've talked about this, it has to be that cohesiveness of the pass rush, being able to not even just getting home. It's not about hitting the quarterback on every play. It's about creating the pressure. Make them throw the ball out of rhythm. Make them throw the ball without the anticipation. And that's where Tua has been just lighting people up, as those anticipation throws. And kudos, big kudos. Again, this is nothing to take away from Miami's offense, because their offensive scheme this year is revolutionary. The way that they're using the fast motion,
arena team.
Exactly. You said it perfectly. Yeah. There was a play, one of A-Chain's big gains. They ran in orbit motion to the strength side. A-Chain's lined up in the slot as a wide receiver. They run the orbit motion to the strength side and then ran a reverse with A-Chain to that same side. That, I mean, they're telling you where they're going to go, and they're like, stop it. Like, we dare you. Stop this ball. They were getting 9.8 yards per play. I think they only got to third down twice in the first half. They were rolling. But as a secondary for the Broncos, you have you don't have Justin in there. You're really thin at safety. There's not a lot of veteran leadership. Pat Surtain is doing everything he can. That secondary is doing everything they can. It's hard to cover for that long. And when there's miscommunication, when there's not enough pressure on the quarterback, it's going to be a long day for the defense. So the last thing that I wanted to bring up about the defense, Chris, I was talking to some of my buddies, and they asked the question of, does this team have any leaders in the locker room? Like, do they have any leaders on defense? Like, we look back at the Super Bowl 50 team, and you said it perfectly. We had dogs all over the place, but it felt like there was more leadership at so many levels of that team, whether it was DeMarcus Ware, or whether it was Danny Trevathan, or whether it was Derek Wolfe, or whether it was you or Talib or Darian Stewart or TJ Ward. It seemed like there was leadership all over the place. And so I want to ask you this, based on that performance and based on the performance of all 3 games of this season, do you think that there's actually like a leader in that locker room, like a fiery leader that's going to get this team get up in there? Or do you think that this is just one of those situations where there's just not a good leader on the team?
I would say Cortland could be that guy, but after you have a game like that and you have 2 major fumbles, right? That it's hard to go in there and be that rah-rah guy. Mm-hmm. And the issue is there's nobody in there that's won.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's not we've seen Justin have success, get some accolades starting. Kareem's had a long career, but nobody's won. Right? Mm-hmm. Who's won? Like Bowles said, he said it correctly. I've been here 7 years and I haven't won.
All I've done is lose.
So only one you have in the locker room that's won a championship is Frank Clark, and he was with Mahomes, right? Yeah. It wasn't like he was just the main guy, He Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs offense,
Chris Jones, on that defense.
And Chris Jones, So he's probably the only guy that's won something that's in there, and he's from the rival, know.
He's not even playing right now.
He's just enjoying the free, the free the labor right now, He's enjoying his time. So there's no, especially on the offensive side, it's more younger guys, not a lot of success, So other than Russ, so that's the issue right there. You don't have a lot of guys that's had a long careers of winning and know what it takes to win. And so that would be my observation on it right there.
Well, by my account, Chris, I think the biggest way to solve this problem is for Chris Harris Jr. to put back on the Denver Broncos uniform and be that leader in the locker room. I'm joking. Let's go over to the offense. We spent enough time talking about the defense. Let's go over to the offense. Of course, in this game, you're down. This is a 50-point loss, and a lot of people have been pointing to, Russell Wilson can't get the Broncos offense going. It's just not like it's Russ can't, whatever, pin it on Russ. The truth is, the absolute truth is, the offense didn't play that terribly. 2 really bad fumbles by Courtland Sutton, which is something we've never seen before from him, but 2 really bad fumbles. Marvin Mims, man, this guy is someone that we keep bringing up in these conversations. Really, really strong performance from him. He had that 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown as well. He was the highest graded receiver in this room. Absolutely balled out. What did you think of the Broncos' offensive performance in this game, despite all of the negatives surrounding the defense?
Yeah, we're losing the turnover battle every week, and we're not forcing any turnovers. So that's a bad recipe as for a team, giving the ball away. I think Sean Payton mentioned that they scored on all 3 of those possessions. We spot them 21 points. So that would be my only thing, my only argument to the offense. I think the offensive line played better. I think the inside guy he struggled a bit. I think just from watching the game. Was it Cushenberry? Is that his name?
Cushenberry had all those first 2 games, did not have a good game this game.
Yeah, from just watching, I think Christian Wilkins, he's a blue chip guy. That's a tough matchup. So that was a good test for him. I think he was probably the best D lineman they had. So other than that, the running game I think was flowing. I think Williams had a solid game. We got to find a way to get Mims more involved. Judy, I think I had too much high expectations on Judy. I thought he was going to be able to be that game breaker guy, but he seems more of a possession guy. He might get open, move the chains. And we got to use Mims as more of the big play threat. And I just want to see what else Mims can do. Because the way he looked like with the ball after that, with that kick return, he has a lot of playmaking ability. So I just want to see. We got to get him more plays. I know he's a rookie and they want to start him slow, but come on now, he can learn 20 to 40 plays, and be able to be involved with 25 of them, and be able to get some more targets. So we got to figure out a way to get him the ball.
Yeah, Marvin Mims, 3 catches on 5 targets for 73 yards, only 11 snaps. Only 11 snaps.
Yeah,
that's far too little.
And
he
makes a big play, and we stop going to him. Does that make sense to you?
Look at what happened in Washington against Washington. It was the same thing. You hit 2 huge plays to him on both of those catches in the Washington game. One was a touchdown. One was a huge gain. I mean, this kid can play. And it's not like it's like some shock, like, oh my gosh, why is he doing so well? His athletic profile coming out of Oklahoma, he was the highest from the relative athletic score, RAS, which is a great metric for looking at prospects. He was the highest rated wide receiver in this class. And this was a good class for wide receivers. Don't get me wrong. This next class is going to be fantastic, but this class was no slouch. And Marvin Mims was the by far and away the most athletically gifted wide receiver in this class. And on film at Oklahoma, we saw that big playability. He's not a big guy. He's only 5'11", barely 200 pounds, but he plays deep like he's a big body receiver. He plays like you would expect Courtland Sutton to play, right? And so why are we only giving him 11 snaps on the ball? Why, like against Washington, I think it was only like 5 or 7. So, and you brought up the kick return. I want to mention this. Go watch that kick return again, because what he did was not something that you would expect a rookie to do, right? He got that ball, he's getting upfield, and you watch him and you look at his eyes, he's really patient. And he's like, it's almost like he's throttling down. And then you see all of those blockers on the right side, and then he just turns on the Jets and goes,
exactly.
That is a veteran move. That's a veteran returner right there. And the Broncos have something special in that dude.
And he showed his athletic ability, right? Not a lot of people can slow down in the hole and then bounce outside and outrun all the NFL guys.
And turn right. I mean, it was like that. It was
man.
Burst.
So we got to figure out a way to get this guy in the offense.
Yeah.
Sean Payton, I don't know if he's not smart enough, if he's not capable of the intake of the offense on a weekly basis, or they're trying to get Cortland and Judy the ball because they're the big money guys. But we got to figure out a way to get Mims the ball, and he's been he's on pace trying to get that offensive player of the year, rookie of the year, trying to get that.
Yeah, I think I want guys like Cortland and Judy to be involved in the offense, absolutely. And it kind of felt like they were trying to get Judy involved, and they definitely were trying to get Cortland involved. These guys are open on a weekly basis, and they're doing a really good job at creating separation. Cortland, if he holds on to those two balls, this is a completely different game for him. Is it a completely different game on the scoreboard? Probably not. Maybe one of those, that second fumble when he was inside the red zone, maybe that turns into a touchdown, right? I feel like his best work really is coming within the red zone. That touchdown that we saw from Russ, where he's working that back of the end zone, that's where you're going to make your money. But ball security is so important, and you just can't have those mistakes. That is like deflating. It's drive killing. It just sucks the life out of the team. And I feel bad for Russ because he is playing so well. He's playing really good football. Probably the best football we've seen him play since that second to last year in Seattle. Like he really is doing a great job. It's just those mistakes are just so killer for him and that entire offense. The other person that I want to see get involved, Chris, before we get on to winners and losers and look at next week's game, Brandon Johnson. I want to see this dude get involved
he's sneaky making plays.
Yeah, he's from that Chad Johnson bloodline. Chad Johnson is his uncle or there's some relation there. But this is a South Florida kid. We know that South Florida kids can ball. This dude has a lot of promise. He had promise last year. This dude really has some promise now, and I'm really excited to see him get involved in the offense. But I want to ask you before we move on. We're going into a game against a really, really winnable opponent. The offense has been playing at a better pace than last year. What else do they need to do in order to keep this train rolling on offense and maybe turn it around for the whole team?
We got to try to eliminate the sacks. Russ is still getting sacked, pretty high rate. I don't know what we rank in the league. With
it's
that,
not good.
I know we're getting a lot. He's getting a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So we have to clean that up. The negative, because those leads to negative plays. Yeah. We get behind the sticks on second down, and then now we have third and longs. And have we been successful in completing third and longs? No, we have not. So I think we got to continue to figure out to get the run game going. I think we've been falling in a hole. We fell in the hole last week, so we couldn't really get it going like we did versus the Redskins. But we got to get it going versus the Bears. Get these play actions. Get Mims involved. Take the top off. And ball security.
Yeah,
eliminate sacks.
Got to be
and ball security. That should be the number one topic in the offensive room with Sean Payton, because we can't continue to go down this road of giving 3 turnovers, 2 turnovers on a weekly basis. Yeah. You're going to end up losing. You're going to lose every game like that. I think the percentages are like 85%. They're very high,
Very.
If you win the turnover ratio, right? Yeah. So we got to win that and be able to eliminate that and eliminate the sacks.
Yeah, and one of the keys that you brought up last week when we were previewing this game was you needed to see Mike McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles play a good game. And Chris, I'm happy to report that between those two players, there was only 2 total pressures. A week after McGlinchey gives up 6 pressures, he only allowed 1, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I didn't hear Chubb. I didn't hear Chubb's name at all. Everybody else was balling except Chubb. I didn't hear him.
And that was, I mean, that's good to see. That's good to hear. But then what it comes down to is those other guys stepping up. Cushenberry had been the most consistent lineman through the first 2 weeks. He has a bad game. He gives up some pressures. Quinn Miners gave up 3 pressures, 2 hurries, 1 hit. I mean, granted, Russ wasn't sacked, and that's fantastic. That's a good sign. Yeah. But 9 pressures overall, 3 of them from 1 player. I mean, it's got to improve. The offensive line has to get better. You're going against a defense that is giving up a lot on a weekly basis, and there's some other things going on in the Chicago organization that are just kind of like, it's kind of feeding into their play onto the field, right? And it makes me think, like, what's going on in Denver that's bleeding onto the field here? There were some reports from people. I know Jordan Lopez from one of the Broncos podcasts, Broncos Avenue. Sorry. He was at the game and he reported seeing Sean Payton and Vance Joseph kind of going back and forth on the sideline. Maybe that's just Payton coaching him up. Maybe that's an argument. Who knows? But you know, when the coaches aren't gelling and the philosophies don't mix, you're not going to get those results on the field. So that brings us into we're gonna go over some quick winners and losers, because there weren't a lot of winners from this game, but there sure were a lot of losers. So first winner, Chris, we're gonna give this one again to Marvin Mims. Big game from him, huge game. What did you think? Why was he the winner of this 70-20 loss?
Yeah. Well, I think he was the only one that made big plays, big catch down the middle, in traffic, and took a hit.
Taking the hit.
So that was a grown man play. Nice return, being able to showcase his return ability. So that's what we need. He's an only spark, and with limited plays, he touches the ball how many times? 3 times out of you said he had 5 targets, right?
Yeah, 5 targets, 3 catches. Made big plays.
So he touched the ball 4 times, right? He touched the ball 4 times. So that's what we need, man. We got to be able to get him the ball more, and he's the lone winner, especially on the offense. Other than, like you said, the tackles played better, the running back played solid. So other than that, I think he might be the lone winner.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to give a winner title to Russ, just because I feel like he played a good game, and he really was doing everything that he could. And the fact that he was still in there, you're down 50 and you're still in the game, because that to me is like, I'm sure Sean Payton wanted to pull him. I'm sure he did not want his starting quarterback in there, but knowing and seeing the type of player and the type of guy that Russ is, he was probably like, no, I'm going to finish this game with my brothers, because I'm just not going to go out like that. So kudos to him. The losers, Chris, this is a really easy one. The whole damn team. This was the most embarrassing loss, honestly, in team history. We thought last year against the Rams was embarrassing, the game where Nathaniel Hackett got fired. We thought that was embarrassing. I mean, it was, because it was on Nickelodeon, and so we had SpongeBob and Patrick talking smack in between plays, with slime running down the field as Russ is getting sacked and linemen are fighting on the sideline. And B, because it was a Rams team that was in shambles, no Matt Stafford, Baker Mayfield's making his like 2nd or 3rd start, and then you lose like that on national television. That was embarrassing. This was even more embarrassing. So Broncos got to fix something, man. It's whether it's depth. I mean, at what point? Before we get off, I want to ask you this. At what point in the season, you mentioned Caleb Williams, the draft, we're going to start doing draft content here pretty soon if things keep going this way. At what point do you, as an organization, say, okay, it's time for us to maybe blow this up, trade away the vets, and start to rebuild?
I think once you're out of it from the division, I think right now the Chargers have 2 losses, so you're 1 game behind them. You're 2 games behind the Chiefs. So you got to figure out to go on this streak. It's still a tight race. So you're still in it. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Even though the world is telling you, as a football player, you got to kind of close out the world. I've never been a part of a 70-20 loss, like that. But I would think in my mind I would have to close out the world and be able to just trying to focus on and push through and win 1 game. And I think Coach Payton, I don't know, it's hard to see how the locker room is, and like you said, we were talking about leaders in the locker room, and is Coach Patton or is Coach Payton and the GM, are they on the same page? Because maybe Sean Payton might be cool with the owners, and they might want to go get their own guys with the GM with the scouting report, because right now the talent level is not looking up to par with everybody else in the NFL. So they got some question marks, and I can, if I'm a head coach, of course I'd be talking to the D coordinator going off, when my defense is looking like that. So
when you give up 750 yards.
Man. So I think they got to do some soul searching. Coach Joseph got to do some scheme searching, because it looked like they don't have an identity. Usually you got to have some defensive calls, like some bread and butters. Like if we call this, everybody knows what to do, regardless of what formation they come out in. We all know how to execute this defense, right? So that's what they need. And right now, they just look like they're confused right now.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the Washington game, there were a couple plays where you go back and you look at the coverage, and you're just like, what is the call here? Like, there was one play in particular where I think it was Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dotson ran like a 10-yard out, and you had Kareem Jackson on the far hash, and he's sprinting down to cover the outside, cover the boundary. And it looked like they were in some kind of cover 3 or like a cover 3 with the slot running man. And you look at some of these plays and you're just like, what is this coverage? What are the rules of this coverage? Because that first Tyreek touchdown, same thing. It's a miscommunication.
He looked like cover 2, but I couldn't figure it out, man.
It looked like cover 2. It looked weird, man. It looked like 3, and then like Kareem is carrying. Like it looked like the slot.
Somebody let him go.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell if the corner needed to stay with him. Did the corner on the backside? Did he run with the receiver? With his receiver? Did you look?
I think he did. It was the slot defender pushing vertical, and then Tyreek came across, and Kareem stayed where he was. So that tells me that it's either 3 or it's 2, and the slot defender just missed his assignment. On either way, they credited or they tagged Pat Surtain with that coverage. It was not Pat Surtain in that coverage. He actually didn't have too bad of a game. I think he did get burnt by Chosen Anderson or Robbie Chosen.
If you give up a touchdown, you had a bad game.
Yeah, and that was a 68-yard score, and that's tough. Again, it was in garbage time, but like still, you don't want to give up those scores. And there has to be something done. They got to sit down in the film room. They got to get this shit squared away, because it's not working. Whatever they're trying to do right now is not working. Vic Fangio's defense prevails once again. That you played in both of those systems, man. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in our week 4 preview, but Chris, that's going to do it for our show today. 70-20 loss is hard to cover. We've managed to go over on time, which is a miracle, but it's good to talk ball, man. And shout out to your Kansas Jayhawks, dude. Ranked,
we're the undefeated team, man. Undefeated 4-0, baby.
Ranked 24th. Let's go. Rock chalk, baby. The Oregon Ducks come away victorious over the Colorado Buffaloes. What a great game. We
didn't even talk about the Buffs. Well, we're so mad about the Dolphins game. We forgot about the Buffs getting killed, but Deion is going to take some while. It's going to take a couple of years.
It's recruiting. That's what it comes down to, and it's the first year. Deion's admitted that many times. I wasn't surprised by the game and the result, but it was still fun. That Colorado team's going to be fun next year, man. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. Oregon's just a really, really talented team right now with a lot of experience.
Oregon got some dogs.
They got some dogs. Yeah. Those two corners that they got, especially that
number 5 look real nice. Yeah, I'm like, hey, number 5 got a chance.
Maybe
he's a big 6'1", 6'2" corner.
Long.
Oh, the Broncos is definitely drafting a corner first or second round next year.
Yeah,
I can. Or probably some tight ends. I would think. What do you think? We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, draft time. Or
depending, might have the first pick. My time. Yeah, like you said.
So that's gonna do it for us today. Make sure that you're following us on Twitter at Chris Harris Jr., at Patrick Chiotti, at Believe Network. Make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, and make sure you check out our YouTube channel. We're gonna have videos up. We'll have some clips up there. Maybe we'll end up doing some film breakdown here with Coach Chris Harris Jr. In the near future. But Broncos country, until next time, let's ride.